she's not used to Outlook. She's used to Yahoo Mail. Okay. All right. I'll call the meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
All right. We haven't had a meeting a little bit with the holidays and so on and so forth, but I did get my information. I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda for today's meeting.
So moved.
Is there a second? Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of approving the agenda for today's meeting, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. What's that?
Copy of the agenda.
Oh, okay, you guys can share that because it's not out there. All right, next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes from the October 22nd meeting. I'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes as presented.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of approval of the minutes from the October 22nd meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Moving to public comments. I have, since there's no one in the meeting, I have a couple of things that I'll say. Number one, Don Bonafide, this is his last meeting. His second term runs out. So Don, I wanted to publicly thank you for all the time you've put in on this committee and appreciate your help. And I would hope that the folks in the Ocean Pines Association appreciate your level of volunteerism. So thank you.
Thanks, Doug.
Does he get a plaque or anything?
Not
A party?
hey, if you want to arrange one, that's fine. So Don, again, thank you.
All right, thanks, guys.
The next thing I wanted to bring up is that I think you guys are aware, we do have someone who is interested in joining the committee. Colette Warren has expressed interest. I have, with your approval, I've endorsed her, and that appointment is on the agenda for the upcoming board meeting. Unless something changes drastically, I fully expect to have her join the committee for our next meeting. That's it for the, unless anybody else has any comments. We'll move on to, one other thing. It's noted that the December financials are not yet available.
Right.
So we're gonna have to limit our discussion to both the October and November. Just an FYI, I put the October minutes on the agenda just in case anybody had any questions after reviewing that report. I would expect that we wouldn't have a lot of extensive discussion on that aspect of it. The November ones, I think that we can focus on since those numbers are available to us. So the next item on the agenda is review and discuss the October monthly report. Does anybody have any issues that they want to bring up regarding the October monthly financial report? Okay, seeing none, which I would have fully expected. I don't have any either. Seeing none, we'll move over to reviewing the November report, which is okay, good. I got mine. All right, as we go to the first page of the report, looking at in positive operating and revenues. Any questions on that first page? Any questions on page 2, the operating account summary? Okay.
I'll catch up to you, don't worry.
All right.
You just keep on going.
Okay, I'm gonna switch back and forth here. Page 3 is the operating results. Any questions on the operating results page? One of my notes, and I'm sorry, I have to keep going back and forth because I forgot to print my notes out, but fortunately my wife sent me sent to me here. Under ops results, my note was that wages and benefit expenses were under budget for finance, CPI, general maintenance, and police. is that an indicator of anything? Meaning that, is it just that, I guess the obvious question is, although I don't think it's the case, are there any positions that aren't filled? Were there positions that became open during this time period? Or is it just that, we had anticipated X and, we're actually seeing Y? Again, not a problem, just an observation. And then, interestingly enough, the wages were over budgeted amount in aquatics. So I don't know that that tells us anything specifically. Maybe they had to bring on some other folks because of the fact that the sports goal pool was open and there was a lot of people there, et cetera, et cetera. Again, not an issue, just an observation. Anything else on op results page? Yeah. Next page is net operating by department. I have to chuckle. Here we go again. I'm the one that seems to run my mouth for the whole meeting, but hey, that's okay. Net ops, my comment here was we're 366,000 favorable to budget year to date and 570K favorable to budget from the same time last year. And I don't know if that's an indicator of a different operating environment.
Where are you? What do you?
Net ops by department. Okay.
Yeah, I know that, but what specific area?
All right. Look at the
Salary?
look at the very bottom line. Okay.
Yeah, net
Not
operating,
right,
right?
right? And the variance is 366. Okay, so we're 360,000 better, favorable to budget. Okay. The other question is, if you look at year-to-date budget of 3.51, okay, then net operating, and year-to-date budget last year of 4.25 is a big difference. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now, is that an indicator of anything?
No,
I'm
that's an
sorry.
anomaly, no.
Yeah,
I mean,
again,
that's-
just pointed out.
That's a $4 million variance. Ballpark.
No, year-to-date budget was 3.5 and net
You
operating.
got 4.2
And year-to-date
million,
last year was
4.2 million last year
Mhm.
variance. That's the budget.
Yeah, no, I'm looking at the
And we've talked
4.8.
about, and that versus 366,000, right? Is that what you're looking at?
No, I'm looking at year-to-date actual of 3.8.
Ah, now you're talking.
And now, if you look at year-to-date last year, you got 4.82.
Okay, now,
Right.
okay.
So, that's a big enough of a variance to kind of say, well, that's literally just short of $1 million. Okay.
Agreed.
Now again, it could have been, quite frankly, because it wasn't budgeted, we have a different operating year, things are a little bit different. But again, what I look at is I look at big differences in things from a previous year, okay? Under the auspices of, well, guess what? It's still a new operating year. We have a different environment than we did last year. And, does that have any effect on it? Is this an issue? And I don't think it is. It's just, again, an observation.
Well,
Jack.
200 and, I don't know what that would be, almost 250,000 is your food and beverage.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know see, what I'm confused about is how that rental is reflected, on the report, the rental income. They pay us a monthly rental.
Lease payment plus
Right, right.
6.5%.
And I'm assuming that's where your food and beverage revenue comes from. That's your
Right.
total revenue.
Right, exactly.
Your rental.
No, and
But
6%,
there's also an
6.5%.
overlay and I don't know, call it a operating bonus that we would receive. Is that right?
No. What we also receive is 6.5% of gross food sales.
Okay.
All right, so that's
So
where,
where's that reflected?
right there. The way I'm told is that that month actual is a combination of both.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it, that, the year-to-date budget was 355, through November, and we're at 337 in actual, so we're right on budget. So look at that and say, okay. Again, I just pointed out the fact that there's a big variance between the total net operating for the organization between last year at this time and this year at this time. Okay? And then, I think I
Well,
have,
there is.
uh, and then,
So does that become a question?
well, yeah, I would, maybe a clarification. We're just
Yeah.
assuming,
Yeah.
that, that's the case. So let me add that as a question, net ops variance. And then, goes back to the same thing again on net ops by department. If you look at, on the expense side, okay, on the operating summary, on the expense side, if you look at wages and benefits, okay, we were budgeted 4.8 year to date, and we're at 4.4 million year to date, which is a $377 variance. Is that telling us anything? Okay, very top line under expenses on wages and benefits, all right? So, and it's, year to date last year, the expenses were 5.3 million, so it's clearly, we're saving
And that's,
$900,000 worth of savings there,
and
so
that's
obviously
that's
there's
your
been,
food, right?
no, well, maybe, but at the end of the day, I look at that and I say, I'm guessing, and I think it's a reasonable guess that there's been a lot of efficiencies built into the operation from a labor perspective.
That's a big leap.
Yeah, well, I mean, what else is it?
Well,
Did we have 100 employees? Now we have 80?
Do we pay any salaries to the food service?
No. No. Again, just an interesting number. I'm interested when I see things like that. And again, could food and beverage have been associated with this? Maybe there's, less overtime per se, and so on and so forth. But again, just another observation. All right, any other questions on either the net operating by department or operating summary? All right, move on to racket sports. My notes, the revenue as of right now is 89K unfavorable to budget. And on net ops for for that department, it's 98,000 year to date, worse than the same time last year. So clearly, racket sports has been affected in some way, shape, or form. If you look at what they passed in the budget, they're going to stick with that. And I think personally, I think that's fine. And it's me based on many years of looking at situations, if you react to a kind of a knee-jerk reaction, that's not always the best solution. Maybe we need one more year's worth of data with this new fee structure that says, a number of people, here's my thought. A number of people won't just, we went from, I got to pay for, tennis and I don't play tennis right now. It's one fee, forget it, I'm going somewhere else. But maybe after they went to another place just to play, let's say pickleball, and they realized based on availability of the courts, travel time, et cetera, they said, well, maybe, and cost, maybe they say, hey, let me come back. So I would give it year 2 under that same fee structure to say, did the emotional response to a change, in that first year have any effect on the number of members we come back for the second year? So I'm okay with that. Because I think there's some validity to the fact that, again, you don't want to just make a decision based on, one slice of data, one occurrence of something. We have to change. Might not necessarily have to change. It would be interesting to say after year 2, if we see the same kind of numbers on racket sports, then, we'd have to ask the board and the general manager to look at it and say, is this the, kind of the way we really need to continue, or are there other options for us? So again, no action required, because I'm, again, an advocate of making sure we collect enough data to ensure that any decisions made based on those data points has enough of a data capture to make a decision on.
They said at the budget meeting, they were going to start a marketing campaign in March. John made the comment he wasn't interested in catering to Delaware. I didn't really understand that. So I guess there were people from Delaware using?
Yeah,
I'm
I'm,
okay.
I'm not sick.
You have a cold?
No, this is my example.
good. Yeah, good point. I think that, you know, I would understand that comment as saying, we serve the folks of Ocean Pines first, and then, you know, anybody else after that. So, yeah,
But the marketing campaign kind
well,
of supports your
yeah,
theory that.
yeah.
let's do
In
the
turn,
Marketing,
what's the old meme you see all the time? You miss me yet? In other words, you know, it could be that, hey, you had your chance to go out and, you know, canvas other opportunities and decide whether it's, and so we're telling, hey, we're still here. We still think we have a very solid racket sports environment, you know, facility, the pro shop and all the other things that, you know, consider coming back. So again, it goes back to, I'm a strong believer in no knee jerk reaction. Let's, you know, I think they need to get another year's worth of data under their belt before any other changes would be considered. You know, that's just me. It's my personal opinion.
as long as they can afford it.
Yeah, okay. Anything else on racket sports? All right. Next item is aquatics. Yeah, my note here is that year-to-date revenue is only slightly unfavorable to budget and 120K better than last year. Okay. So
Right.
aquatics is pretty much on budget, and I think that they're doing, you know, whatever it is that they're doing operationally is clearly tied into what was budgeted for it to be done. All right, after aquatics, the next item is combined golf ops. Anything? Anybody?
Good as usual.
Lost.
Come on, Frank, you got it.
7:32 to 7:08, I'm happy. Yeah.
Yeah, Don, did you have something you wanted to say?
No, sorry, just clearing my throat.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and hey, Don, clearly, I won't consider it interrupting or a violation of Robert's Rules of Order if you just say, hey, excuse me, and I'll recognize you.
Okay,
Yeah, my note was, the net revenue year to date is 43,000 better, favorable to budget, and 24K year to date, less than last year, but, you know, clearly we're still in a very, very good position in combined golf ops. Yeah, you know, it's gonna be interesting. Frank, I kind of lean to you because, you know, I wonder how the irrigation project, especially as we get into the springtime, is gonna affect, like, you know, outside play. People heard, oh, they're redoing the golf course. Let's not go to Ocean Pines for, you know, let's go play over somewhere
They are
else.
supposed to be finished before the spring season starts.
Yeah.
In other words, what they're doing now should be over with by the time spring season starts. So I doubt that that's even being mentioned in any promotional stuff that goes out
Right.
relating to what you want to sign up for X number of tee times in April.
If I'm the marketing guy for the golf operations, I'm not gonna say,
Tell
"Hey,
people-
we're under construction. That's not
No,
gonna,
no, I'm not gonna say that.
that's not gonna draw a lot of customers.
No, I'm not gonna say that.
No, I was just curious. I
But
think,
also, we just pushed up that extra work being done too.
oh, good.
What extra work was?
There's was approval of 400 and some $1,000 to work on another hole or two, I don't know which ones they are, in the current, in addition to the current number 4
Yeah.
and what other holes they're doing right now.
Right.
They're gonna do some additional holes.
What are they doing with number 4?
The new irrigation system.
The
Yeah.
whole
Oh,
irrigation
okay.
system.
It's the irrigation system.
Yeah, right now,
I thought they were working on the back 9 now.
the four's closed right now.
Doors closed right
Okay.
Yeah, four's
Yeah,
closed.
actually, that's interesting. I'd heard that, and if you recall, one of the things that we as a committee advised the board to say, if you are on or ahead of schedule,
Yeah. well,
you know, you should, since you've got the materials, you know, and the labor rate locked in, I believe that then go ahead and do some more. Go ahead and take, you know, because the money's in reserves. So again, take it, do more holes while you've got the time to do it.
That's
Right, that's the understanding I had, that was $400,000 of additional work that they're gonna do. Moving that money from reserves to active,
To the operational budget.
payment. And that additional work will be done this winter instead of being done next winter.
Good,
So that pushes us even farther ahead of schedule than
Yeah.
we were before.
Well, I'm glad we're able to, and again, that was a recommendation from this committee to do that, and the board took advantage of it, and, you know, it's good, that's good, that's good stuff. All right, anything else under, combined golf ops? Okay, next item is beach parking. Sure that, you know, only thing I noted was that the year-to-date revenue is up 53 from last year, and, net op for the entire department is, 34K year-to-date better than last year, so clearly a few more people were using the beach club parking lot than last year. That's a good thing. And I don't know whether that's daily, you know, it's interesting, not that it really matters, but, you know, is that more people buying, the annual pass or more people buying a daily pass?
Did a great job of estimating the budget versus the actual.
Yeah, yeah, that's right on, you know. Okay, anything else on the beach club? I'm sorry, beach parking. The next item is marinas. Right, and I had an interesting observation. So, my note here is if you look at fuel sales for the month, all right, month actual and month, but the budget was 2,700. The actuals are 8,080. So it's a, you know, just short of a $6,000 difference in fuel sales. The question would be, was it timing? Was it something else? It's just an interesting, I mean, overall, you're right on budget, you know, it's not a big deal, but I just thought that was an interesting, you know, sort of circumstance that you were, you know, that far ahead of budget on fuel sales, you know?
In November.
Yeah, right, I'm sorry, yeah, you're absolutely right, Randy, in November.
Yeah.
So I was, you know, if that was in July, yeah, okay, great, no sweat.
Let's see them selling $6,000 worth of gas into it.
Yeah. Maybe one of those bigger yachts came in and said, ah, fill her up, 750,000 gallons. Okay, again, no issue with marina, just that was an interesting, tidbit of information. All right, anything else on marinas? All right, then the next item is, the, reserve summary. Any questions? I have none on reserves. I think that in the GM report, they do a good job in explaining, you know, where we are on the reserves and where we're targeted to be at the end of the fiscal year. So that I rely on that as a lot of information that we get from, you know, the GM report at the board meeting. So it's pretty good. Next item is the capital summary. Any
Yes.
questions on capital summary?
Busy.
I had one question. And if you look, there is a $49,000 expense for drainage listed in Public Works. Was that, you know, kind of what was that? Was there some more pipes that were replaced, or was it something else? Because it's listed under drainage. And I know that's one of the, you know, one of the topics, you know, people look at. So you know, that was anybody. Are you seeing something that I might have missed? Because, you know, again, it says electronic signs. And I just wanted to make sure, if you look under the capital expense for public work, 49K of electronic signs. If that's where they put it, then that's the 49K. I just wanted to double check and make absolutely certain that, it was for that, because it said, the reason it threw me off is because it says drainage. So I never associated electronic signs with drainage. Okay,
See 48.6 under golf maintenance says irrigation.
yeah, but that's,
Is
again,
that the 49 that somehow got,
yeah, so it's just a question. I'm sure it's just a matter of where it's been put, in the budget, and in the report. But again, I was kind of going back and forth. It says Public Works drainage, and I didn't see anything, for that amount other than electronic signs, which I'm sure nobody would associate with drainage. So that's going to be a question that we want to send over to the finance team. Any issues with that? Okay. Note here. All right. Anything else on the capital summary? All right, next thing is the balance sheet.
Now, you answered my questions.
Okay.
I assume everybody else follows along, and knows what it means.
So I will tell it myself in public here. So, appropriated and unappropriated equity, that's the retained earnings, okay? But what I don't know, not being an accountant, is when it's on the balance sheet, okay, what's its status? Is it liquid cash? Is it liquid? Can it be used? Or is it held until, because I know that, in talking with John, for many years, you don't declare the overages or the surplus until the audit, which is usually finished in June, July timeframe. Okay, so when that money is sitting there in unappropriated equity, I guess my question would be: is that money that was a surplus from a prior year that has yet to be declared? Because appropriated equity is, yeah, I've claimed it and I got a use for it. I've earmarked it for something, whether it goes to reserves, whether it goes to reduce the assessment, so on and so forth. That's fine. So
They're
that's,
gonna spend it.
yeah, yeah. And the question, I just want to sort of ask John from an accounting perspective, is that, when you look at that, I want to make sure, is that really, money that's available, as liquid, or is it just, reported on the balance sheet until such a time that the audit declares it, correct, and, it's treated as surplus and the liquidity associated with it, so. But, okay, anything else on the balance sheet?
14 million, yeah, 14 million 8. So, you got 8 million in, year-to-date actual in appropriated equity, 6.4 million in unappropriated equity.
Mhm.
If that's funded and that's cash, that would be additional funds added to the total current assets of 16.8 million. So we're talking some serious money here.
Not sure I quite understand it that way.
All right, well, how do you understand?
Well, I mean, it's listed as it's listed, on the liability side. So meaning that you've accounted for that.
Total liabilities are footed.
Yeah.
You're right, it's on the liability side, but total liabilities are footed. So you're talking about investments and fixed assets, they're illiquid.
Yeah,
You can't do anything with them. They're roads and all that jazz. But this other stuff, that's was the thrust of my question to you and looking at that. Whether or not it's just an expression of the health of the organization or it is funded. And if it's funded,
Hmm.
if it represents cash, then it would add to current assets.
Well, it's owner's equity, it's not liability.
I can't hear you.
It's owner's equity, not it's equity, not liability. It, on the liability side, but it's,
It's equity, yeah. And it's like my friend said, it's retained earnings, you know. Corporations have done that for years, you know. In banking business, it was their capital. Yeah, that the regulators used to wipe out every 10 years. But that's,
I think the message going forward is, and the GM and the board have full autonomy when it comes to doing whatever they want to do with unappropriated equity, you know. And it can be applied anywhere in the operational environment that they so deem it necessary to be applied to. I think one of the things from a committee going forward perspective is to just understand the philosophy of using that unappropriated equity, you know, going forward. Sometimes it's used. As a matter of fact, I know, John, if I hope I'm correct, I believe I'm correct on this, is in the past has used it to ensure that we keep the assessments lower.
Right.
You take that, you know, that surplus, which, you know, and you don't even have to be an accountant to do that, but there are other environments coming up. In other words, with the reserve study, you know, would there be a change in the philosophy of how you wanted to use that unappropriated equity?
Right.
Okay, so I think I, you know, personally would err on the side of being conservative, you know, and saying, okay, let's just make sure, you know, rather than going out and buying a Ocean Pines Winnebago or something, you know. So the idea would be, let's make sure we understand and can predict as much as we could, you know, what may happen in an upcoming fiscal year or looking down the road. a little bit.
Exactly.
And you know what? And this is another, me not being an accountant. How long can unappropriated equity remain on the balance sheet without being used? You know, in other words, can you maintain that same unappropriated equity from, in other words, build it up? Let's say it's 2 million one year and it's 2 million the next year and you don't send it for anything, you know, and then you put it, you know, in the third year, now you're at 4 million in unappropriated equity. Is it carryover or are there some accounting principles that require you to do something with, you know, unappropriated equity? I don't know the answer to that. Again, was a technology expert, not an accountant, so.
Yeah.
I have a line for prior year.
Yeah, yeah, but at the end of the day, what is, you know, are there any, well, we're not a taxable organization, but are there any requirements associated with the use of unappropriated equity across fiscal years? Which be the, you know, the question, which I don't know the answer to that, but I mean, because if we're gonna make as a committee, gonna make recommendations going forward, you know, on budgets and budget prep, I think we need to better understand that and better understand the philosophy, you know, of, in this case, the GM, you know, who's gonna be one to make the appropriate recommendations to run the operation.
And do we know what appropriated equity is allocated toward?
I do not
Do
know.
we know the project or
It could be anything. Matter of
could
fact,
it
it
be
could,
roads? Could it be the roads? Could it be the bulkheads?
well, if you look at the, you know, the very beginning of the budget, the
Right.
first sheet of it, you could see, you know, an allocation from reserves, you know, or allocation from, you know, the fund into reserves.
Yes,
So in
sir.
other words, you look at where you're collecting, so like we got $8 million worth of assessment collection, you know, but taking 3 million of that, putting it into reserves, and so on and so forth. That's where, you know, that's where some of that money's going, because there's another transfer too. I think it was $500,000 from that account. I gotta go look at the budget. I don't have it memorized yet, but yeah, there's a line in the budget for, you know, transferring those funds.
I looked up the definition if you're interested,
But what?
unappropriated equity.
Yeah, it should be overages from, you know, the operating year that have yet to be identified as a specific use.
The cumulative profit a company or organization has earned over time that hasn't been set aside for specific future use.
Okay, I got it right.
Like projects making it available for reinvestment dividends or covering.
Yeah,
unexpected-
and you got full autonomy on what it is that you want to spend it on. Okay, enough about that. Although I'm gonna ask John, give me a better understanding of, you know, so again, it's a kind of a piece of information that you want to have in the, you know, in the committee so that they understand going forward to make recommendations, because I hate to make a recommendation that's counter to what you want to use the unappropriated equity for.
I think the bottom line is, if you look at this balance sheet, this organization is pretty healthy.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, it really is. I mean, look at the total liabilities. It's inconsequential. It's next to nothing. So we're very liquid. It's a good balance sheet.
Okay,
in
anything
my
else,
opinion.
anything else on the balance sheet? All right. Next item is our cash and investments portfolio. We're looking at 15 million broken down, and this is always reflected in the treasurer's report, so it's pretty straightforward. The questions on that one? And the last page of the report is the membership report. Probably don't see any red flags on that.
Look at your racket sports where
Yeah,
you were concerned about.
yeah, we know that, racket sports is now. It's been reported in the, in the departmental report. Any other questions on the membership report? All right, seeing none. Next item on the agenda was to review the December report, but the December report is not yet available.
Budget.
So, I know I'm breaking protocol here a little bit, but at the end of the day, if I recall, the budget reports for a month are due, was it between 13 and 15 business days
15 business
after
days.
the month, 15 business days after the month closes? Because I'm just wondering, and I'll throw this out to the community, I'm just wondering are we pushing it by meeting the third Wednesday of the month? I guess my question would be, should we move it back to the fourth Wednesday of the month? So we can ensure that we have the monthly report, for that month.
So do you want it after the budget, the board meeting?
Yeah, I mean, because, because having been obviously years of experience, I hear, been on the board, the thought back then was, to try to get the budget and finance meeting done prior to the board meeting. But I can count on one hand a number of times there was any relevant interaction between things that came out of the committee meeting for budget and finance and the board themselves. So,
Well, how often does this happen? We are on the 15th day.
First time since I've been on the committee.
Well,
okay, all right.
what's gonna happen November, December? Gonna run into the same problem, November and December. People are gonna be out of town.
Yeah,
In,
okay.
in November and December, because of Thanksgiving and because of Christmas,
Tell you what,
we're gonna have conflicts.
all right, tell you what, let's continue this conversation. Let's get through the agenda and we'll put it, since the last item on the
At the
agenda is
last
general
item,
committees, then we'll do that, all right?
Good
So
idea.
returning back to the agenda, our 2025 annual report. The reason I put this on the agenda was I just wanted to make sure that you guys, as well as myself, are just making notes so that we can present a comprehensive, end of year report. Okay, it's due in October, so we got plenty of time. I just don't want to, scramble at the last, week or so right before it's due and say, oh, it's due next week. Let's do something. So the idea is just just make sure if you think there's anything relevant, and as chair, if you want to just send little tidbits of notes, I'll continue to just kind of amass them, in a document so that, we can do that rather than trying to remember what happened 8 months ago that might have been relevant. So anything that you think ought to be considered, in the annual report that we present to the board, just pass it along, write it down, make a note. And if you want, I'll keep, or one of you can keep track of it. It doesn't matter to me. But again, I just want people to continue to think about, that annual report. Okay? Any questions, comments?
Well, on the balance sheet, I brought that up and then suddenly it appears, we don't need a balance sheet every month, do we? Or do we? I mean, could we do it quarterly? Like most financial institutions, look at it on a quarterly basis.
Valid question. I think I would turn it around and ask John and the finance team, how difficult is it to
Yeah, I
provide
don't want to put
one every
pressure
month?
on, yeah.
Yeah, and if it's difficult to do one every month, okay, we'll accept one every quarter. But if it's not difficult to do one every month, Why not?
Perfect.
I mean, I would say, at the very least, we get it quarterly, but if we can get it monthly, okay, and it's not putting any burden on the staff, I say we,
Okay,
continue just to
agreed.
do it this way. All right, so anyway, so that was the annual report. Again, just a reminder, just continue to think about things that, we want to make sure the annual report, okay? Next item on the agenda is discussion of, needing a vice chair for the committee. So I know, Sherry, you brought it up. And I think we need to understand whether or not that's something that we need. So the floor is open. Sherry, why don't you?
I think mostly because if someone goes, if you're a chair and you need to go off or take off, you're, with surgeries or you're on vacation, I don't think the meetings should be missed every, that month just because the chair is out. I don't think any meeting should be beholden to one person. So it's like, just you have vice presidents, for a purpose. So it's not, for anything other than to keep things flowing.
Okay. Anybody else?
My feeling is, I was on this committee, in 2016, we didn't have a vice chair, and I don't ever remember us having a vice chair. And the only time it comes up is that November, December timeframe. So I personally don't see the need, but that's me. To me, you deal with the conflict in November and December rather than changing the organization. But then again, I'm simple-minded, so, what do I know?
Frank?
I was chair of the golf committee for however long it was, year or two. I always had 2 or 3 members of the committee. If I wasn't gonna be there, I would contact, in our case, McMullen or Bob Long, who were stalwart members of the
Yeah.
committee, and then ask them to take over for a particular meeting.
Yeah, and kind of.
Sort of unofficial vice chair, is the way I would have looked at it.
Yeah, and that's kind of the way I was leaning, is that, maybe it's it should be the chair's responsibility if the chair is not available or not going to be there, to assign someone to handle the meeting. And I think everybody here could run this meeting. Okay, there's nobody on the committee that couldn't run the meeting. So rather than burden ourselves with a vice chair and maybe the nuances associated with it, the extra quote unquote overhead, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. I think it's just incumbent upon the chair that we agree as a committee to say it's the chair's responsibility to make sure if that person isn't going to be there, that they assign someone. Their responsibility is to assign someone to run that meeting.
Particular meeting, yeah.
Yeah.
Randy?
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, either way, the vice chair or the assignment's probably.
What about the online guys? What do they think?
Don?
I'm in agreement with that last comment to assign it to someone.
I guess one other thing to support my I suppose the chair and the vice chair are unavailable. You're still gonna have to assign.
Still-
somebody to the meeting, right?
Then you have to have a second vice chair.
Yeah, and the third and the fourth, no,
Well, yeah.
and it gets a little cumbersome. I would say that, as a chair, one of your responsibilities would be to make sure that in order to conduct a meeting, when you're not there, to assign somebody to conduct a meeting, put an agenda together and make sure things happen.
I just don't think that we should be skipping meetings when someone's not available.
Right. That I agree with, and I think we might have, and I'll take responsibility for that one. I knew we weren't gonna be there. It's the holidays and, I was kind of like thinking, okay, well, is there any good day in the next 2 weeks? No. So just skip the meeting. So, I think, Jack, we chatted about the November, December timeframe and having meetings about, we might not necessarily need to meet on that third, but maybe we meet on another day. We just adjust our schedule in November and December to make sure that we do conduct a meeting, if need be, okay? So unless anybody has a absolute aversion to it, then, we'll just, as we said, we're not gonna appoint a vice chair. We'll just make sure, and as current chair, I'll take responsibility to make sure that if I'm not gonna be here, that we absolutely are able to, have a
You
meeting,
can contact someone and make them the chair, but
okay?
you
Okay. Thank you for the input, guys. So general committee member and comments, go around the room. Randy?
I had one.
You haven't been recognized yet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
All right, I will get to you when you're
I
recognized.
apologize.
You
I
know, as
didn't know
chair,
anybody else-
where's my
I
gavel?
had no idea. I, have bad hearing and I didn't know anybody else spoke up.
Okay, so again, all kidding aside, we're still under Robert's Rules of Order. And you must be recognized by the chair in order to speak, so anyway, Randy,
I'm good, nothing bad.
Frank.
There you go. You're fine.
Frank,
I'm fine, thank you.
Don,
I'm good. I'm good.
thank you. Jerry,
I just have a question on the budget, you know, the line items and all.
okay,
I noticed that on the annual,
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. What'd you say?
and I'm not sick, so just like, no. I noticed that on the annual budget, that the review that we're doing, there's a line item there for the board budget. The board of directors has a line,
mhm.
but on none of the monthlies do we see the board line item.
It would come out of general administration.
Why don't we have visibility to what the board is spending versus just being thrown into general? And then I think that we wouldn't have that question to, you know, they budget 10,000, they spent 30,000. There's no visibility until the very end. So I think that
No.
it's just a recommendation. I think that the board should have a line item in the month.
Yeah, I hear you. Personally, again, having been involved, I just, you know, to me, the level of detail, what do you get out of that?
You get where you have
Yeah.
visibility that you're not seeing a jump from 10,000
Yeah.
budget to 30,000 spent.
Well, okay, I
And
mean,
what else is being in the general that's affiliated with the board that we don't see?
yeah, and I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of things that are spent that we don't see, nor necessarily do we have to, you know? To me, at the level I've always been at the corporate level, it's just, I want to see the bottom line numbers, you know, the summaries. I don't need all of the detail. If I needed the detail, then I needed to hire somebody else, you know, or I'll be doing a different job. The idea is, you know, unless there is some anomaly, unless there's some, you know, gross difference between what was budgeted and what the actuals were, then it's not really an issue.
I'm
You know,
just curious
having,
because we have line items for
Yeah.
everything, but we don't have any visibility.
yeah,
towards-
well, you know, actually, I mean, it's a good point. Don't get me wrong,
Yeah,
but,
Just
but
curious.
I don't think there's anyone that's gonna say, take every single line item in the budget and tie it back to a monthly report. Doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way, you know? You could say, well, you know, instead of spending, $1,000 on mulch, I spent 2,000. Well, if the budget was, you know, 4,000, who cares? You know, well, you spent twice as much as what the line item said. Well, you know, the conditions changed.
We question
Yeah.
those line items all the time on the full budget.
Yeah.
I'm just talking about one line item for the board of directors.
Yeah, well, you know, I mean, we could certainly,
Something we noticed.
I personally, I mean, we can ask, but personally, I don't see that as any kind of real necessary, you know, benefit or something that would be actionable should we see some anomaly. Because again, there's so much, I mean, I remember, you know, in my world, you did your 6-month forecast, all right? And then you looked and say, well, you know, I thought I was gonna do this, so I'm gonna take this money that I had earmarked for this particular thing and move it over here because in this area, I know that I'm gonna have an additional spend, or I have an opportunity, you know, to maybe gain a better cost on something, you know, than I would if I just left it alone. So there's always within the budget, but I never exceeded what was budgeted. In other words, like, you know, oh, well, yeah, 1,000 to the good. Okay, well, you know, instead of being, you know, 1,000 to the good, I could move over and so let's say make a purchase that would be beneficial to, realize discounts, volume discounts, you know, preferential pricing, things like that. So, you know, I don't want to ever be one that would hamstring somebody to say, oh, wait a minute, there was $412.47 in that line item and you went over by 14 cents. Yeah, I'm not interested in that. That doesn't make any sense to me. The people that have the budget have the ability to run the budget and make adjustments, you know, throughout the fiscal year as they see fit, you know. So anyway, point taken. Jack.
Well, you and I chatted about this. Our year end is what? May 30? Something like
April
that.
3rd.
Yeah. So June meeting probably becomes critical because you're reviewing the whole year. But then July and August, it's like, what 1 month and 2 months activity. And my question is, do we really have to meet in July and August?
I mean,
It's a busy season.
Yeah.
And well, it's prime golf period also.
The money comes in a lot during July and August, and it goes out a lot during July and August. So, maybe.
yeah,
But if we don't want to meet in July and August because it's busy, and we don't want to meet in holidays because it's busy, then I think that we need to have people that are dedicated to meeting monthly.
yeah, Jack, I'm gonna have to kind of respectfully disagree with that one. Meeting, if nothing else, as an opportunity to exchange ideas, ask questions, and maybe prepare for any subsequent things that come up. We might notice something in the June and July timeframe that may be relevant, in February, So at the end of the day, and remember, we are, unlike the board, we are not required to meet, again, in our bylaws, the board has to meet at least 6 times a year.
Right.
Okay, so the board meets every month, which is fine. There's no same requirement on a committee.
Right.
Okay, so we can meet as we see fit. And there's also no requirement that says it must be the 3rd Wednesday of the month. We can meet whenever we deem it necessary. So if it came up to the point where, you didn't want to meet, the committee could agree not to have a meeting. It's that simple. I would just, notify the board liaison and just say, we're not having a meeting this month. Or, we've decided to have the meeting, let's say there's another situation where, for whatever reason, the monthly report wasn't ready. And you say, okay, we're going to postpone our meeting for a week, or 2 days or something like that. So, the committee has that level of flexibility to look at the scheduling. So I would say, I think we do need to meet in the July, June, July timeframe, only because, exchange of any opportunity for exchange of information is a good thing in my book.
Well, I'm
Okay.
not gonna argue the issue. I raise it as a potential, and as you said, based on your experience, there's a lot of activity that occurs in, June, July, and you want to review it, that's fine, I'm okay with it, that's the consensus of the group, of the committee, of the board, I'm fine with that, that's not a problem. I'm not gonna die on that hill for love of money.
There's no battle there, so don't worry about it. Just for the record, Bob Hilligas did have an excused absence today. He sent me my only question is that, it goes back to the annual report. And I'd also like to include, or at least consider, in trying to capture some of the operational aspects of what John Viola has done, because he's done some just tremendous things. And let's face it, John isn't going to be there forever. So the idea would be, and I'd ask John, I'd ask the board, is there any benefit in us trying to capture some of the philosophies he has, some of the tactics he has used that have made him successful, that could be passed on, to a subsequent GM. And, I think that's, I think it's incumbent on the board as having the GM as their only employee.
I know you're contemporary, you ought to write that down, they're very good thoughts.
Yeah,
They are excellent thoughts,
I have,
good man.
yeah, and the idea of just saying, over and above, maybe we should, because his body of knowledge, when John walks out the door, when he says, I have done, it's time to play more golf, that there's an intellectual property that kind of walks away with it. And the idea, and I've done this in the past with, I had to do it myself with, all the things that I presented back to the organization, before I left. I've had staff members do the same thing. All right, hey, give me a summary of, the top X number of points that are important, that need to be sustained, carried on, and so on and so forth. So I'm just, I'm gonna, as long as anybody has any issues with it, I'm gonna start to kind of see if we can make any inroads to that, to try to, at least stimulate the discussion to say, are there things, again, because somebody like John is not going to come along that often, and if we don't take advantage of harnessing what he has done that has been successful, then shame on us. So the idea would be, so I want to look at that as part of the maybe the long-term, annual report, okay? So just an FYI thoughts, but more on that to come. And there's nothing pressing right now, but at the end of the day, I would like to at least approach them and get both John's, perspective and the board's perspective on that approach.
Does he have a, does he have a deputy?
There's no deputy GM, but, I know Steve Phillips is, very well versed and he's very experienced and he's been with the organization for several years. So there's a body of knowledge associated with Steve as well, so. Okay, seeing that we've been through the entire, committee on that particular item on the agenda, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I was so moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor? Okay, thanks, everyone. And you know what? Even though we adjourned, I forgot something. Remember the email